Welcome back to the Highline Herd. I'm Shelby,
And I'm Skylar.
and we're going to be covering wintertime horse ownership. I know we're getting into springtime, we're nearing the end, but wintertime horse ownership is one of those things that's always discussed. Everybody's always looking for tips and tricks on layers and boots and gloves and blankets and troughs and mud, all of it.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, obviously your wintertime prep varies from state to state. In Texas, you're probably not going to be doing quite as much prep, but we live in good old Ohio,
Yep.
and we are in the middle of what I call mud season right now.
It is horrible.
Yeah, it's that tail end of winter when everything's just slushy, mushy, gross.
Yes. Your horses never stay clean. Your tack never stays clean.
No matter what you do, everything's dirty from mud, muck, manure, something.
Yes.
And it's not a good time to clean either because it's so cold, nothing really dries.
No.
It just, yeah.
Or at least never fully dries.
Yeah, it
And
always...
if it does dry, it's covered in, like, dirt and grime and mud.
And yeah, and then you just gotta clean it all over again.
Yes.
And if you don't have somewhere for your horses, if you don't have a set sacrifice lot or an indoor to stretch their legs, yeah, your horses hate it too. So, yeah, we're going to discuss wintertime horse ownership and how we cope with all of this and how does we manage, because that's all it is. Yeah, I don't think you can be successful with this.
No, it's how you get through the wintertime in the most efficient way possible for your horses and for yourself, because wintertime care is a lot different than summer care.
Absolutely. I know both of us, our guys stay out almost 24/7 when the weather's nice.
Yes.
Like daytime, nighttime, if the weather permits, our guys are out. So summertime, that's project time.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of barn chores to be done. Bring them in, feed them, make sure there's no nicks or scrapes, make sure their feet are good, send them back out.
Yeah.
That's summertime. Wintertime.
It's a little bit of a different story.
Right. You spend, 10 minutes getting all your layers on, and then you got to trudge out there with all those layers through the mud, through the snow. Like we recently, January, we got the most snow we have had in a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, we got about...
we got a lot of snow.
Yeah. 7 inches, I think.
At one point. No, I think it was closer to like 9.
Yeah. It was either way. It was deep, and between throwing on all those layers and then trudging through the snow, I was exhausted by the time I got to the barn.
Exactly.
And then, trying to shovel a path so you can open gates and doors.
It was rough.
Yeah, it was. And again, like, this was our first big snow in years.
Yeah.
All of our winters have been so mild.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, like, what we put on when we go out there.
Yeah, let's go ahead and cover the layers. Yeah. Like, I am a huge supporter of Carhartts. I love their bibs. I love their coats.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can't help it. The canvas really, like, you would have to, like, climb in a pond to get wet when you're wearing Carhartts.
Mm-hmm.
So they do great with the mud and the muck. Bibs are great. Honestly, I encourage you start with a good pair of socks and bibs.
Wool socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know, depending on the temperatures, I might take off my coat and just, be in a sweatshirt and my bibs.
Exactly.
My bibs help keep so much in. So the biggest thing when you're doing winter, layering, and this goes for no matter your outdoor winter activity, whether you're hiking, doing barn work, whatever, remember, if you start out a little bit chilly, that's good, because you can always de-layer. You can always put more on if you need to, but if you're a little chilly, you're going to warm up doing all that labor.
Exactly.
And so being a little chilly is not a bad thing. Now, we don't want numb hands. God, finding good gloves.
Well, yeah, so that's the big thing for me is my hands. They get cold really quick. I have a bunch of leather gloves, and I have insulated and I have uninsulated, and then I have just plain leather gloves. The ones that I really like, and they don't have a brand name or anything, otherwise I would recommend them. They got kind of like a fleece lining on the inside, and it's very very nice for keeping that heat trapped in. So on those really cold days when it gets down to like the negatives,
yeah, and your gates and clips and everything, you're like, can you unfreeze?
You gotta carry water buckets. Yeah,
right.
No, I definitely go with those. So you kind of went over your Carhartts and stuff. I sometimes wear my Carhartts out if it's really, really cold. I run into the problem where I get overheated very quickly when wearing Carhartts. So...
And that's why I just do my bibs. Like, I very rarely wear my Carhartt coat.
Yeah.
It has to be really cold for me to put that sucker on because otherwise I get hot.
Yeah.
And you're only taking care of, 2 or 3. I've got 6.
Yeah.
So.
You're out there a little bit longer than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I go with just wool socks, a wool hat if I have it, or just one of my beanies. Carhartt, funny enough. And then my gloves. Sometimes I will wear thermals underneath if I'm just going to be wearing like a sweatshirt. And
long johns and thermals are a must.
Yes.
Even if I don't throw on my bibs, if it's cold enough, I'll throw those on under my jeans and whatnot because they just help keep so much in.
Well, and even so with getting Sundown, I got him right in the cold snap of all the January weather, which was wonderful. But, it wasn't
at least
that
your
bad.
Driveway was clear by the time you came.
Yes. Yeah, that was...
For a minute there, like, gravel driveways were just ice skating rinks.
I mean, 9 inches of snow on a gravel driveway, and we plowed it, and then it froze over again. It was just ice. So we got that sorted before the hauler came and brought Sundown. But, no, I got a pair of snow pants. So they're, like, skiing pants. I got them on Amazon for like $20, right? And I was like, I'm just gonna give them a try. I'm gonna get some extra lawn johns, put them on like underneath.
Right. And you're not out a whole bunch of money, right?
I swear by these pants, okay? Like, I am not going back. Like, forget about Carhartts for a minute, okay? Carhartts are a little bit expensive.
They are. They're definitely pricey. But I mean, it's one of the few things, like, so much anymore, I think a lot of things are overpriced.
Yeah.
Carhartts, I will say, you get your bang for your buck.
You do. No, you definitely. And they last. If you take care of them, they last.
And I'm hard on stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. And I'm short. So every one of my Carhartts drag the ground. Not a single one of them actually sit, by my ankles or anything. And I have yet to fray or thread the edges.
Yeah. No.
But again, but my biggest thing with Carhartts is they're so bulky. So if you've got something like the snow pants where you just throw long johns under them, there you go.
Well, it's the bulkiness and it's also the weight of it. Because they are that thicker, sturdier material, it weighs a little bit more.
They're great for doing chores, but if you actually want to ride or do like a lot of bending and squatting, they're not your friend.
They're a bit restrictive. Yeah. Well, and my issue with my Carhartts, they're a little bit too small because I got them about 4 years ago, and I've gained weight since then. So I can't bend over past, like, my waist. It's kind of funny to watch, but not comfortable at all. So that's why I got those snow pants to try out, and I have been amazed. I can wear a pair of leggings or lawn johns on. I can wear, like, pajama pants, jeans, and then the snow pants. It's
definitely nice being able to layer your clothes.
Exactly.
So that's probably the biggest thing in winter is, can you layer? Mm-hmm. Because I've only got, when it's really cold like this, I've only got 2 pairs of boots I cycle through.
Yeah, same.
Right. The one is, fleece lined so they keep warm, but they're not my main choice. I usually throw on my muck boots, which are a size bigger than what I normally wear, so I can load up with socks or throw like a toe warmer or hand warmer in there with me.
Hand warmers are lifesavers too, just to keep in your pockets.
Oh, I keep them in the barn, in the truck, in the house. Like, they are so nice to have on hand for whatever you're doing. Like, if you're cleaning buckets and just need a quick way to warm up your fingers real quick before you do the next one, grab yourself some hand warmers. Like.
Or you could just do what I do and just suffer.
But again, it's indifference of, how many are you taking care of?
Yeah.
I'm scrubbing, 6 times 2 is 12. I'm scrubbing 12 buckets, dumping 12 buckets.
Yeah, I'm doing 4.
Right. So, And then there's troughs. Like, my troughs need drained, but they may not need scrubbed. Yours might need scrubbed and drained. Like,
yeah.
It's all about what you do, what you handle, and like there's a nice difference, right? I have more horses under my care than Sky does, and so my needs and what I have to achieve is a little bit different. I'm out there for 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes doing chores. So for me, Carhartts are my main choice because I need to be out there a long time and I need to stay warm.
Yeah.
But if you're rushing through the chores like you are and it's just a quick, couple and done.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it goes into prep work, what you do beforehand.
Oh my, yes.
I definitely like to have the barn set up so my horses, they stay out for most of the time.
Yeah, you keep your guys out frequently.
I do. And I want them to stay out as much as possible because I want them to be a horse. I like to keep my guys out on the pasture as much as possible. Just because I want them to be a horse, but also because we have a mud lot and it is a dedicated pasture that can be tore up, that can be a nasty area. But it gives them enough room to stretch their legs, to still like have access to a big round bale, a big trough of water. And then what I do is I will open up the barn doors and let them go in and out per choice because we don't have a shelter out there. So if it does start raining, like what it's doing now, and drizzling and all this weird, crazy weather that's not snow.
I was going to say, welcome to Ohio, where we get some weird combination of rain and snow and sleet and hail, and
we get all 4 seasons in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was just like 60 degrees the other day.
Yeah.
And sunny and beautiful.
Then we got snow last night, and now we're getting rain tonight, and then tomorrow it's going to be snowing again.
Yeah. And tomorrow night it's going to dip back into the teens again. Like,
yeah. We never know what's going to happen, so we just kind of like stick through it all.
And it's truly like just eyeballing the weather app. Yeah. I check the weather app so many times throughout the day, just because I might look at it in the morning and be like, oh, yay, they can go out tonight. And then I might look at it while I'm serving dinner and I'm like, crap, they're in.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Hence why I like doing the prep work and having everything set up nice and neat.
There's so much prep work.
Get and go.
So in my barn, I have a goat I got for one of my horses as a companion before the rest of them moved in. But my goat he doesn't have his own designated spot. He can't stay in the stall with the horse right now. So he's currently blocking access to my hay barn and my shavings. So my version of prep work is bringing in hay and shavings to the main barn, finding an out of the way spot for it all to sit and store till this season's done with.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm going to be trekking through the mud to go all the way around the barn. And then,
get stuff out.
Right. And then, it's mud. So you sink and get stuck. And with my luck, I'd get like 3 bales of hay covered in mud. And that's a whole lot of money wasted.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Horses are picky eaters. They don't want muddy hay.
No.
God forbid.
Sandy hay.
Right. They eat grass out of the dirt. But if their hay is just a little bit dirty.
Or a little bit wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, layering is important. Prep work is important. Getting ready for the winter. Making sure your gear is good to go to keep you warm. Making sure your horse's gear is good to go to keep them warm. Making sure, if you don't have a space set up for them to go, well, how are you going to turn them out in the winter?
Exactly.
Are you willing to let them tear up a spot of your pasture? Are you willing to segment something off? Do they have run-ins? Do you have an arena you can turn them out in for a couple hours?
Yep.
There's so much to consider when you have horses, and there's so much more, I feel like, to consider in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And even, if the horses aren't even on your property, if you're considering boarding or you do board somewhere, think about what those boarders offer. Do they have pasture for the wintertime? Do they have a sacrifice lot? Do those lots have, shelters from the wind and the elements? Or are they going to be kept in a stall and maybe turned out in an arena every once in a while?
Right.
What does it look like for them? And how do you keep your horse enriched, happy, and healthy?
Exactly. And it's definitely hard. This is one of the hardest seasons to own a horse, probably, because I mean, yeah, in the summertime we have flies, and again, we are speaking from the perspective of Ohio. We are speaking from the perspective of a state both of us have lived in and grown up in our entire lives. So yeah, your wintertime and summertime prep might look a little bit different somewhere else, but speaking from the perspective of a couple of Ohioans, our summers are fairly mild. We typically don't go above 90 degrees.
No.
Humidity is typically manageable. Like, we get horse flies. That's probably the worst biting insect we get.
Bombers. Oh my god. I'm not looking for... I would rather have snow and mud than the bombers.
Honestly, I think this winter has been really good to, like, help keep the population down. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Like, oh, last year was so bad for them, though.
I mean, like, some of these... I call them bombers because... they're literally, these horse flies are as big as your fist.
So they're big and they're mean.
And they hurt.
I was going to say, they prefer to bite horses, but they will bite people.
Well, and both of us have darker horses, which is...
Yes, and there are some, like, myths I disagree with. Like, white hooves are weaker. They're not. You just notice the blemishes and the damage more easily.
Yes.
But darker horses absolutely attract horseflies more.
They attract the horseflies because... they attract more body heat. And that is how the horseflies see their quote-unquote prey. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
But it's interesting. So you've got your biting horseflies, but then you've also got the nasty little, like, green flies, the little deer flies.
Oh, no. Don't.
Well, so Sabine, when I got her front legs, just her fronts. This is what was odd. It was just her front legs, but it's not unusual. I've seen it usually on donkeys. But her front legs were just scabs and bleeding from all these little deer fly bites. No. And I'm going to keep an eye on her. I might have to give her boots this summer.
So...
I hate to, but...
Well, I know
their comfort comes first, you know?
Exactly. So for Willie, in, like, the springtime, if I don't get him sprayed down at least 3 times a day, or have somebody spray him 3 times a day with fly spray... the deer flies go after his head and his ears like it's nobody's business.
You don't mask him?
Even masked. Yeah, his mask this past year was it was like the thin spandex.
Oh, it was like it was the Lycra masks.
Yes.
They serve a purpose. Fly protection is not it.
Non-existent. Plus, he kept rubbing it off, too. Like, he rubs off any fly mask that I put on him. So, most of the time, he is without a fly mask. Which, I think it just comes down to a vision thing. He likes to see everything, and he'll put up with the flies. So...
you might just need to start... So, what I did this past summer was I smothered my guys in SWAT. Because that's how bad all the biting flies were for a hot minute.
That's what I ended up doing.
I just...
It helped a little bit. But
bellies, udders, sheaths... ears, SWAT, just drowned them in it.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, we're talking about summertime. This is still wintertime.
We're still in the mud season. Yeah, focus. This is probably gonna track though. We are a little scatterbrained sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
So we talked about layering, definitely how keeping yourself layered is important.
Yes.
We talked about, like, we kind of touched on, so let's go back into that. When you're preparing for winter, yeah, you and your gear needs to be good to go, but also how's your horse going to manage? Like Sky said, are they going to have a sacrifice lot, a mud lot, an arena, something to stretch their legs? Mm-hmm. 4 of my guys have runouts. That has been a lifesaver. I don't feel nearly as bad about them being in because they can still stretch their legs and roll. And
yeah, if
they want to be goofy, they can be a little goofy. The one does it on a regular basis, even though I wish he wouldn't. So, and when you're boarding, you have to consider too, blankets, I know, is a hot topic for horse owners, but some horses need blankets.
Yeah.
So, and blankets can save you money, actually, in the long run, too, on things like hay, because they reduce how much your horse is burning, which will be a whole other episode. But when you're boarding a horse somewhere, you have to consider, are they going to charge you more for blanketing?
Taking them on and off, cleaning the blankets, etc.
Right. Like, blanketing is a whole other piece of management you have to think about when you're going to board your horse in the winter. And when you whether you're boarding your horse or keeping him on property, how are you maintaining their water intake? Do they have
That's a
bucket
big
heaters?
thing.
Do they have trough heaters? Do they have a way to keep the water spigots from freezing, the hoses from freezing?
Yeah.
So my winter prep has looked like we completely replaced both the heaters in my one automatic trough. And that water is like, you could stick your hand, it could be -5 degrees. I can comfortably stick my hand in my water trough.
Same.
And it stays a nice, comfortable temperature. My hand isn't going to go numb.
Yep.
Which means the horses are going to drink it more. So think about it. You don't want to drink ice water when it's -5.
Yeah. Neither do they.
Neither do they.
Well, and another key thing about wintertime horse ownership is it is a hard month for the horses. It is...
And where we live with all the temperature fluctuations...
Well, it's easy for them to colic. It is the most colic cases that you will see during the year.
But what it is, it's almost... I guarantee you, almost all of the colics... So I will obviously look at statistics on this, but... Going from my past conversation with vets last year and my own personal experience with it, the main colic that happens in wintertime is impaction from not drinking enough.
Yes. Which is where those water heaters and water trough heaters come into play. They are super important and super needed.
They are. Like, so if you're building your own barn, take into consideration what's going to be drawn, the wattage and voltage that those heaters are going to draw.
Yes.
Because I am having a struggle right now. I have to choose between either having my electric fence on or my trough heaters on right now, because it's just the heaters draw that much power.
Yes.
And the fence draws just as much. I'm trying to keep 5 or 6 acres of pasture electrified. So there's a lot of power being drawn, and because of the barn design that I didn't design, but it is something to bear in mind, it flips the breaker every time.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking at, where you're boarding your horse, or the barn you're going to build, or maybe the barn you're going to buy if you're fortunate enough.
Or even the one that you already have.
Right. Does it have the ability to support water heaters, trough heaters, heated buckets, like whatever your poison of choice is to get your horses drinking and hydrated? Does the living space that your horse is occupying support that?
Yeah.
And some horses won't drink out of a heated bucket. So what's your solution for that? If your horse won't drink out of something that's been quote unquote electrified, what's your solution to keep water in them? Are you going to bring hot water from the house? Are you going to have a kettle in the barn to heat water for them? Like I said, I had a small experience last year, and I talked to the vets about it, and they were like, this is what we see almost every year, this time of year exactly, is impaction colic after impaction colic.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly preventable by making your horses drink more, which is possible, despite the saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Absolutely, you can. You just have to find what works for your horse, which is all what horse ownership is about.
Yeah.
What works for you and your horse.
Yes. Because, again, like I said in the last, episode, every horse is different, every person is different, and every pair is different.
And every situation is different. Some horses and some owners don't have the ability to have a nice, fancy barn.
No.
So how are you keeping your troughs insulated? How are you keeping your troughs thawed? Because some horses won't drink out of an ice-covered trough. They don't want the broken ice chunks brushing their nose, or they won't break through the ice themselves.
Yeah.
So are you putting your trough inside of another and stuffing it with hay, manure, styrofoam, whatever to help insulate what's thawed? Or are you dragging out, I don't know, a solar generator to run a trough heater? What are you doing to maintain your horse's access to water? Because it's silly to act like every horse owner has access to a nice barn with electricity and all these amenities.
Yeah.
Owning horses is tough. It's pricey. And we all have them how we have them, what works for us.
Yep.
And that's different for everybody. There's no shame in whatever your situation is, as long as you and your horse are happy and healthy.
Yeah.
So I know, like Sky said, her preference is her guys live out 24/7. That's my preference as well, but I don't have the facilities to do that. So right now I keep my guys rotated on runouts, and I have a very small space I call a mud lot, but it is so shoe sucking. I am very reluctant to put them in there.
Because your guys have shoes, right?
3 of mine have shoes, yeah. And one of them has very expensive shoes that I'm not willing to chance. So I'm very, and even injuries.
Yeah.
That shoe sucking mud can cause injuries.
Pulled tendons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suspensory injuries. Like, that's a whole other thing. So, you know, we talked on layering yourself. We talked on having your gear ready. We talked on how are you maintaining your horse's water intake, but how are you preventing injuries too? Because you can't turn out willy-nilly in the winter.
No.
You have to take into account that, you know, the snow is going to hide the train. If there's a hole, your horse may not see it.
Yes.
If there's an ice patch, think like when you're driving black ice. Think about that in the fields for your horses.
Or even the horses slipping on ice too.
That's
Accidents
what
happen.
I mean. Like,
yeah.
Horses, like, they're fresher in this wintertime.
Yes.
You know, it gets cold, they get spunky, they get bucky, they want to run
They
and
got the
fart.
zoomies.
Yeah. So you have to take into account, what does your field look like? Is there mud that's going to injure them and get them stuck? Is there ice that they're going to slip on and hurt themselves? Is there ice that's going to break and cut them?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, reality of owning horses is you could have, you know, $1 million facility, you know, with padded rooms and bubble wrap for everybody, and they'd still find a way.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, all we can do is limit it and be aware.
Yes.
So wintertime is a lot of prep. It's a lot of prep for yourself. It's a lot of prep for your horse. It's a lot of, you know, just eagle-eyeing everything. How much are you drinking? How much are you eating? Are you cold? Are you not cold? Are you too hot? Like, if you're a big proponent of blankets, or if you have a horse, that has Cushings and doesn't shed out.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those guys get sweaty even in January.
Well, an easy keepers, is your horse an easy keeper? Are they harder keeper? That'll all dictate how you go into the winter as well.
Yes.
Because food intake, hay intake is also different. I know my guys, personally, they are eating way more, but that's also because they're outside, and for the most part, they're without blankets because they have such a thick winter coat that keeps them warm.
That's another piece, like, that you have to consider too. Your expenses in the wintertime are gonna go up. Mm-hmm. It's not just your electric bill. You're gonna be paying more in hay and shavings. If your horses have a tendency to pull shoes in the mud, you'll be paying your farrier more to come out and put those back on.
Yeah.
Or you'll be paying for new shoes if they lose the shoe in the field. Like, I've got one that just Houdinis her shoes into the oblivion. Like, we never find them, so we've got to pay for new shoes. So, yeah, there's so much to consider. And then, you know, on the topic of shoes, ice balls.
Yes. So, ice balls are a big thing, and if you're not familiar with snow and ice, it's basically in the bottom of the horse's foot. A bunch of ice gets compacted in there, and it is almost impossible to remove. I know you were talking about how you just take a hammer to it.
So I've done some looking on this because, again, most of my guys wear shoes. So I did some looking, and there's ways to prevent snowball buildup. You can spray their foot with WD-40, pack it with Vaseline, put in snow pads. But all of those are very temporary.
Yes.
If you're out in the snow, or your horse is out in the snow for long periods of time,
it's not going to matter.
You're going to have to either get off and reapply, or, you know, you're just going to have to be aware and pick out those ice balls. So,
yeah.
You can use... So, I figured this out works really well. Skylar has several solid metal hoof picks, so it's one continuous piece of metal.
Yes, I highly recommend at least having one of those in your barn. They're very handy, not only just for picking like stuff out of the feet, but for other uses as well. If you need it, like, to pry a nail out of something, or you need to fix something, like, use it as a hammer. Yeah,
my only thing with the solid metal hoof picks is the lever, because they're smaller, they fit perfectly in your hand. They're great little things to have like in a saddle bag.
Yes.
I don't like the leverage on them. So if you have arthritis or a hand injury, they're probably not your best choice for dealing with ice balls. Even though they'll hold up to the abuse, they're probably not the best pick. So what I found works really well is I take a claw hammer and very, very gently you use the claw side of the hammer and you kind of swing it very gently and it picks and knocks and breaks up the ice in their foot. And then once it's broken and loosened up, it usually just falls right out.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be gentle with it because horses are a little shockier in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Just like we are. Our feet are more tender. You know, you hop off your horse and you're like, oh, I need a minute.
Oh, God, the worst pain imaginable.
Yeah. So that's, especially a horse with arthritis, yeah, you can be prone to that.
Yeah. Well, and too, for me and my guys, what I noticed, especially January, when we were getting the heavy snow, and it was that packy snow. Yeah. Yes, it was the type of snow that once it fell, it turned straight into ice, and it did not melt at all.
No, it took us a good several weeks to be fully rid of it.
So with my guys, what I was doing is I was keeping them in overnight. So I would let them stay out during the day, and then once the sun set and the temperature started dropping really low, I would bring them in. When I brought them in, I would clean out their hooves,
Mm-hmm.
but every time it was probably a 20-minute ordeal of just trying to pick the ice out of their feet.
And then, you know, if you are boarding your horse, you have to ask yourself, is the boarding facility doing that? Mm-hmm. Are they cleaning out their feet? Are they making sure there's no injuries? Because a horse can absolutely injure themselves on those snowballs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, some of the snowballs that I took out, they were bigger than two of my fists.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and your guys are barefoot.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, barefoot horses getting snowballs is pretty uncommon. It has to be, like, the perfect kind of snow.
And it was.
Yeah, it was bad. It was rough.
But it's just another thing to consider, and we bring it up because we experienced it for the first time and had to deal with it. So.
Right, like both of us said, our winters have been so mild up until this year.
Yes.
And so, you know, snowballs and dealing with all of that wasn't something we've really had to do much.
No.
But,
because most of the time the snow would just melt right away, or it was that super powdery, fluffy stuff.
Yeah, it didn't pack.
Yes.
Like this snow truly did, like, fell and packed. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into winter horse ownership, and both of us know this episode was more based around our experiences, but honestly, I have found personally there's not a lot out there to help educate you how to get through the winter. It's all, you know, experiences and, you know, either personal experience or hearing it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, definitely, like, this is all just stuff you have to think about, you know, there's so much that goes into horse ownership as is, but every season holds its own challenges.
Exactly.
And the winter is definitely, like, you have to consider, you know, your horse's turnout, your horse's water intake, you know, how are you going to stay warm? How is your horse going to stay warm? Are they going to have access to a shelter? Are they going to be stalled? Are they going to wear blankets? Because I know my guys are all fairly fuzzy, but I'll blanket, you know, if it drops below a certain temp, or if I know if I plan on turning out, but it's like 40-mile-per-hour winds, I'll blanket just to give them an extra barrier against it. Because, like, again, their calorie intake already increases in the winter. If you can give them a helping hand and help limit what they're burning, even better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much we have to think about and prepare in winter. From our own selves to our properties to our animals. There's so much to consider.
Yep.
So, we know this episode was more personal.
A little bit sporadic.
Yeah. But, you know, it's all things to think about and food for thought, and all things we'll delve into more in other episodes. We'll have an episode dedicated to blanketing.
Yeah.
We'll have one, you know, talking about water intake, because regardless of the season, these suckers need to drink, and sometimes they don't want to. So, you know, we have to, how can we encourage that?
Yeah, tips and tricks on how to get your horse to drink. Maybe if you're camping at a different place, the water's different, or...
the amount of horses I know that refuse to drink because the water's different.
Yes. exactly.
Even if it's the same buckets they've had, the water's just a smidgen different. So they're like, I'm going on a strike.
Yes.
I'm turning into a camel.
But yeah, we'll dive into a bunch of different things, and if there is ever anything that you guys want us to focus on too, we can do that as well.
Oh yeah, we're 100% open to ideas, because that's all horse ownership is ideas and figuring out what's best for you and your situation and your equine.
Yep.
Because again, out of all the animals I've owned, Sabine's the first one that I'm like, crap, I might need to buy fly boots. Like, or, you vet wrap their legs, which isn't a great long-term solution. Vet wrap is fairly hard on the tendons and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that we know this episode wasn't necessarily the cleanest, but it's all important things you have to think about as a horse owner.
All considerations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And better to, not experience it yourself. It's better to learn some of these things by listening and reading and researching.
Learn from other people's mistakes,
yes.
not your own.
Yes. If it's your own, it can get quite costly.
Yep.
So, thanks for listening in.
Yes, thank you guys. We'll see you next time.